and thank you for choosing to listen to Horse Heroes on Tour UK edition. This is a podcast where Floor Schoonmakers from EHS Communications talks to equestrian entrepreneurs and superstars in open-hearted, frank and honest one-on-one conversations. My name is Jack, and I truly hope you enjoy listening to some amazing stories from the world of British and Irish equestrian. Put your feet up, relax, and enjoy.
Ready?
No.
You have to, because you can hear yourself, right?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah.
No, but I mean, if you speak, if you sit like this,
It's okay. I can hear now.
so you have to really in your
fault.
Nah, you're all right. Let's get started. Ireland or England?
Ireland.
See the future or change the past?
See the future.
Talking or listening?
Both.
Boxing or dressage?
Oh, dressage.
Let's get started. Cool. Okay, now your intro's coming. He is a British-born dressage rider competing for Ireland. He was the founder and show organizer at Dressage at Hickstead for 27 years. His idol is boxer Muhammad Ali. He loves to fly helicopters and spend time with his family and is always busy. Today I'm a guest at the well-known dressage rider who I'm lucky to have known for many years. Some may say he's the Simon Cowell of dressage, the charming Mr. Dane RAWLINS.
I pay you the money later.
How did I know that, Simon Cowell of dressage? You can explain that to me later.
No, I don't know where that came from.
Oh, well, I do. Hey, Dane, really nice for having me over. And I've been a guest at the house for this whole week already. And,
There's always a price to pay, huh?
Oh God, what is that now this time?
This is the price, having you here. I'm suffering. Yeah.
Oh, you're suffering.
Yeah, good.
No, it's been really good fun to be in England and to do these interviews, and it's a lot thanks to you and Craig, I have to say. So really thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And a lot of people probably know you, but don't really know your background story. So that's where I'm very interested in so that you can tell that to listeners. If we go back, all the way back in time, where did you grow up?
I was born and brought up in a suburb of London called Brixton, which is quite famous in England. My father was a very, very good boxing trainer because he'd been a good boxer, and he was also very clever, so he wound up getting a job in the stock exchange. They really struggled, my mum and dad, for a long time, and they had pretty quickly 3 children. So, and eventually 4 with Craig, who was the one that surprised everybody later on.
Yeah.
Always said he was a mistake. Anyway, so basically, because my father boxed, boxing was everywhere. I had to have a go, and because of it, I liked the sport. I liked keeping fit. Amateur boxing is a wonderful sport. It's fantastic. I mean, people you know for life, and you get to know everything. And so then we moved as Dad got some more money, and he bought a house in Dulwich, which is not so far away from Brixton. It's just a little more affluent. And then I guess my sister wanted a riding lesson, Debbie, for her birthday.
Oh, so it started with the sister.
Yeah, and so a friend of Dad's through boxing knew a friend who had a riding school in Dulwich. Mm. So I'm not quite sure why I went along, whether it was Debbie's idea, I can't remember. Anyway, I went along. Debbie was just a bit too young. I was 9. So I was a bit tall, and that was all right. So I just started riding there with no intention of doing anything other than having fun.
Yeah.
So, that's where it started, in South London, riding around the roads and, going to Brixton Market with horses and carts and all sorts of things.
But then you were in school, of course, as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, just a kid in school, yeah.
And but then you were 9, and you by accident started doing this riding lesson.
Yeah.
And then after that, where did you go to school after?
Well, the school, the first school was in Brixton, in Effra Road School in Brixton.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Dulwich. We went to a little place called Dulwich Hamlet School, which was a junior school. And from there, I wound up going to a very big... The rage at the time was this multi-stream, they call it comprehensive school, where you had, streams from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They threw everybody in the mixing pot. A pretty disastrous experiment, as it turned out in the end. The school that I was in had then 2,000 people, which was unusual. And but it was wonderful facilities, but it was a bad experiment. It was just piling everybody in and hoping something would come out of it. And then I moved on from there. I was there for a couple of years, and I went to another school, went to a boarding school, and then went on, and then just carried on through the various systems. So.
But your dad was a boxer, a trainer of boxers.
Yeah.
You've always been boxing.
Yeah, I've been around it all the time. Yeah. Grew up in the clubs. Yeah.
And then you were riding just for fun.
Yeah.
But when did that get more serious?
I started getting. It's really hard to say when, but we had some pretty good friends at the riding school, and then I started spending a lot of time there on the weekends. Most of the weekend there, and I'd get there before it opened and start feeding the horses, and then I'd sort of be one of the last to leave, and they were really good. I was taught by a lady called Pat Corner, who very, very bright lady, who was the instructress there forever, and then we had a girl called Sue Sanson and then Angela Crowther, and then my friends there were Greg Powell, who's a very famous stuntman, stunt coordinator, done all of the Harry Potter films. Films, Safe House, Hitman's Bodyguard, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, and. So Greg was about a year and a half, 2 years older than me. We've been friends ever since. He now owns half of my horse that we bred for the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
His brother Gary did all the Bond films. He was a coordinator on the 3 of the newest Bond films. And so it was amazing. This little riding school in the middle of London produced people all over. Mark Beaver was one of the lads there that was with us and one of our friends. Mark has wound up being the groom for Nick Skelton for 33 years with Big Star, and was there when Nick won the gold. And it goes on. There's so many people came out of this riding school that went in various directions, quite horse-related in many, but not always, but they went on to do big things. It was just an opportunity, and I think that's what certainly inner city kids need. They need an opportunity to get an ambition, to get enthusiasm, and that's what we got from this place.
Yeah, but it's, if you think of it, how you grew up there in London and being around boxers, totally different world than the horse people. It's
yes and no. You want to be involved in some of the committees. The boxing was a good learning curve. No, I think the sport is very much the same. If you get into top sport, or even decent level sport, it's the same atmosphere, the same feeling. If you talk to good athletes that run or that box or that jump or that ride horses, there's more of a similar thread that runs through all of them than dissimilarities. When you get talking to them, because we don't often enough, except maybe when you get to an Olympics or something where you meet other athletes, but there's a lot of similarity. And being in a really good boxing gym, there used to be one on the Old Kent Road, which was a professional gymnasium called Thomas a Beckett. It was above a pub. It's very, very famous. And but then when you go into the schools like Theatre Rescue School, when you go into Warendorf and you see the horses working there and the steam coming off them, and it's more similar for my way of thinking. So. And
your parents, because your dad was a boxing guy, and your mum, was she?
Well, mum was no, not at all. No, nothing to do with it. Our grandfather, Craig's and mine, grandfather. He was, as a lad, he had to manage horses, look after horses in London,
Yeah.
for the great-grandfather who had a big rental yard in a place called the Elephant and Castle. And they used to hire horses out and wagons out for people to go to work, like you'd hire a truck nowadays. So our granddad, he knew horses from that point of view.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't wait to leave because it was really hard work.
Yeah.
He became a firefighter during the Second World War in London, but he always sort of loved horses. So Mum was always, well, whatever you want to do, good luck. Try and do it properly. And Dad just thought I'd lost my mind.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I think he was right, maybe, but I think he didn't understand it, didn't get it. I mean, one of the funniest things was he told one of his friends, a business up in Yorkshire, about this son that rode.
Yeah.
So this chap, who owned a huge estate, assumed that my father rode. So he came out one morning and was put on this horse and went out for a hack for 2 hours, and he said it nearly killed him. And when the guy found out he couldn't ride and he was on this horse, it was quite feisty. I mean, they'd hung on for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
That was the one
all over the Yorkshire moors. I think that was his one and only time of going on a horse, yeah.
And your mum, did she ever ride a horse?
No, never, no, not to my knowledge, not unless it was a donkey on a beach or something, but no, I don't think she had anything to do with it.
But then you were quite young, and
Yeah.
you're being with these kids at the riding school, and did you have another education or something?
I went all the way through. In England, we have these things called O levels,
Yeah.
which are now GCSEs. Then we go up to the advanced level, so I did those. I went to university to study. I was trying to get into veterinary college, and it was, as is now, very competitive. But there were no interviews then. You either got the top grades.
Yeah.
I was a bit too busy doing other things. So I went to university initially to do zoology. And it was fine. I had a wonderful time up there. I was riding horses out on Beverley Racecourse. I did the university riding club. The only thing I didn't do very well was the work. So I think I basically decided university life wasn't for me. I actually did try and go into the Air Force to fly and got selected.
After that?
No, while I was at university.
Well, you actually want to be a vet. So you started
I don't know what the
university
heck
to be a
I was
vet.
doing, yes, but then there was this opportunity to go flying. So
Yeah.
I went to the then RAF Finningley and did aircrew selection. But they wanted to operate on my nose, and having worked with vets a lot, and had lots of horses dropping dead on anaesthetic, I wasn't too keen on that idea. So.
Well, operating on your nose because of the boxing?
No, that was quite funny, because that's what the
cool
doctor
story.
thought.
Oh.
But in actual fact, my sister, who's never boxed, has also had the same problem. So it's just the septum was pushed over, and obviously for breathing. It wasn't a major thing. I eventually had it done many years later.
Yeah.
But failing that, who knows, would have gone into the Air Force, maybe flying.
But in all this time during school and the university, the horses were always there.
There was always this line of horses. It's really interesting. I didn't really want to work. I didn't really want to do what I'm doing now. In many ways, I wanted to get onto the scientific side of it. I wanted to get onto the veterinary side of it. I just didn't see, that the actual riding was a way. I did it. I loved it. I was jumping and galloping. And anyway, I left university. I literally just had enough. I was bored to tears. I just got out and did the first exams, which I was useless at, and I thought, this isn't for me. As it happened, with hindsight, I now know I was in the wrong course.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that you always say to people now, look, if that isn't for you, maybe something else is. Mm-hmm. Because the actual education there was amazing. But it did open up my eyes, and I got to ride at university riding club competitions and the university championships. And I met Sue Dyson, who's a very famous vet. During those competitions, I met a guy called Rob Eustace. I met lots of people that were actually much better riders than me. And but we had great fun. We went, and I just thought, I like this. And then I invited a guy called Charles Harris up, who'd studied at the Spanish Riding School, to give a lecture to the University Riding Club. So there's me organising everything again.
That's where I started.
Yeah, well, he had the picture of the Grand Prix horses and of the Spanish Riding School and everything. So I just suddenly thought, I would really love to learn that side of things.
Yeah. But then, what happened after that?
what happened? What happened? I came out of university and I ran a jumping hunting yard with a very good friend of mine, still a very good friend of mine now. His father owned the place, and we had a riot.
That's what you decided when you came off university to start your own barn.
No, it wasn't my own barn. It was working for someone else. They had a barn that, it was friends of friends.
Yeah.
As it had transpired, my father knew them all, but we didn't know that at the time because I went off this other way and came back to people from the boxing world. And so I was just with my friend Jimmy Jeffrey. We were riding horses, riding hunters, getting horses fit for some really good guys from London.
Yeah.
They were not really country people, but they became country people, and they wanted to hunt. So they got into that, and we made sure the horses were fitting well. And then I went we had a thing called the Pony Club in England that was very big, and it was big then. It's not now. It's different now. And the instructress at the riding school in Dulwich had put me through the various tests that you do.
Yeah.
And the top test is called the A test. Well, by now, I was a big hunter jumper and I wasn't going to do these tests. But unbeknownst to me, Pat had put me in for this Pony Club A test down in Porlock Vale in Somerset. I didn't want to do it. So I made an excuse and didn't get there. So she said, don't worry, I've put you in for another one at Crabbett Park, which is just up the road from here. Oh, so now I've got to go. So I had by now been all over the shop, hadn't really been on horses as such, certainly not been taught anything. And they put this course of jumps up, and I had to jump them. Well, I misunderstood, so I jumped this course set up at about 140, the wrong way round, all the way around on this poor horse that was nearly having a heart attack. And I just hadn't done the work. I didn't know what they wanted. And I didn't fail it by a lot, but I did fail it, which was, I passed all the stable management, everything. But the examiner there was a lady called Dominique Lawrence, who had ridden at the Munich Olympics on a horse called San Fernando. And she said, I think you might be quite good at this dressage. So one way and another, and I went for lessons with her. Literally about 10 minutes from where we're sitting now. And just don't forget, I lived in London, lived where we are now.
Yeah. How old were you back then?
Probably about 20. So I quite enjoyed it, what have you. Anyway, she then said to me, I've got a friend of mine in Germany that's looking for someone to work in the yard. Do you fancy it? And I didn't. I said, no, not really. I'll stay here. And then I thought about it, and I rang her up and said, stupid really, I would like to do it. And it was a guy I'd never heard of called George Rescue.
Yeah.
So by now this guy has got someone, so I'm next in line, so I've got to wait. So I spent a year working on the trade stands, going around all the shows in England.
Oh.
Setting up trade stands, Hickstead, badminton, Burley, all the major shows. And then I was at Burley, just a week before Burley, and Dominic rang up and said, George needs someone like now. And I said, well, I can't leave these guys before Burley, because it's big set up for them. And I can leave, but I can leave the week after. I had to do an HGV test.
Yeah.
So I did the test, and then I got on a boat. And nowadays, that's nothing. But the boats we went on then were almost like a glorified rowing boat. I mean, anyone of my age would tell you going across was not fun. Even in moderate sea, the boat rolled everywhere. Everyone was being sick as a pig on board. Then I had to get a train. Don't forget, I spoke nothing. I didn't speak any languages. Very smattering schoolboy French. So I'd had to find my way from Dover onto a train to get me to Osnabrück.
Yeah.
Then another train to get me down to Steinhagen in Germany, where George's place was initially. And I went down there with no German, none. And then I went there for 3 months and was there for pretty well 3 years. So that's where...
The dressage.
And I mean, I thought I could ride, and then they put me on a horse, and of course I let the stirrups down, I'm bouncing about all over the place, I couldn't sit up straight. So George and Inga, they basically tortured me.